Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we are taking a look at something pretty interesting because if you can recall, not too long ago, some images had surfaced of an upcoming or potentially already released Adventure Force Giganotosaurus. Well, unfortunately, at some point, Walmart seems to have dropped the line and the Adventure Force brand has just gone away. And we waited a little while, like this, I think was teased probably months ago, maybe even a year at this point. And it was a figure that was supposed to hit the Adventure Force line with the larger kind of more high quality dinosaur toys that they had at Walmart. But unfortunately, it never ended up doing that. For some reason, it never saw the light of day. And I've had my suspicions about this company. And the company I'm speaking of is right there, Simba Toys. So I did review a few of the Simba Toys figures, and I actually still have more to review. I just haven't gotten to them yet. But, and I felt like they were very Adventure Force-like. And I'm really starting to now feel like Adventure Force and Simba are potentially the same company, just with different brand names in different areas of the world. I can't say that for sure, but very clearly this is the Giganotosaurus that was teased for Adventure Force, and it is released under the Simba name, and I believe released in Germany. I'm not too sure where all you can find this figure, but I was lucky enough to have my good friend Paleopart grab this one and help hook me up with it, because it's honestly the only one that I'm missing from the lineup from Adventure Force, and it was also the only one, as far as I'm aware, that I was missing from Simba Toys. But the figure looks honestly pretty cool. Maybe not quite perfect as far as a Giganotosaurus, but really does fit the overall, style and theme of the Adventure Force figures you would find at Walmart. So let's go ahead and jump to a closer look, and we'll check it out from there. So, beginning up here at the head sculpt of our Giganotosaurus, you can see it looks pretty decent, but absolutely looks like Adventure Force. Like it has the same style of skin texture and everything that you would see on the Adventure Force brand. Another thing that's a dead giveaway are the teeth. The teeth are so big and bulky, exactly as the teeth looked on a lot of those other Adventure Force figures. So they do have that, awkwardness to them, kind of like a Schleich resemblance as far as the way the teeth look. But at the same time, again, very Adventure Force. So like I said, I think Simba is potentially related to Adventure Force. Another thing you'll notice is that when it comes to the overall appearance of a Giganotosaurus, not exactly hitting the mark here as far as this figure goes, but it does have a very stylized, very interesting look to it regardless. You can see the nostrils sculpted out. You've got like a reddish tone for the upper body, or for the upper half of the face, and then a brown for the lower half, including the lower jaw. There's also a nice dark wash that's been applied, which is really nicely applied actually, and that's something that a lot of those Adventure Force figures at Walmart had. You can see the eye is painted with a black and just given a yellow spot for the, I guess, the pupil. I don't know. It's very weird as far as the way that they've painted the eye, and I'm not necessarily a big fan of that, but I mean, I guess it is what it is. I like the fact that they've applied that black though, that almost looks like a kind of like a diamond shape they have there over the eye and up into that crest and stuff, which is actually kind of cool. The teeth are painted with like a yellowish tone, like a light yellow, and they seem to have been either painted with a watered down version where we can see the brownish tone of the inside of the mouth, or maybe been hit with a wash. I think it's more like the watered down version. You can see a tongue in there. It's a little hard to pick up on it though, because the inside of the mouth is painted with a really dark tone of color, and it's actually kind of hard to even get inside the mouth to really see the detail. You can see it's like a dark, almost chocolate brown. Interesting tone of color for sure. You can see it over here with the skin stretching also. One thing about the figure though, you can see as far as the articulated jaw, it's not perfect, and as you kind of let it go, it starts to slowly close. And now it's kind of staying open, but it also doesn't actually close all that good, so it's just kind of like stiff and doesn't work too well. But as you lead up here to the top of the head, you can see some small ridges picking up in the snout, and then leading up and over the top of the head, you can see they get a little bit bigger before decreasing in size. As we lead down the course of the neck, you start to pick up a striping as well. You can see a black striping, which is okay as far as the application. Doesn't look unnatural or anything. As you lead down, you can continue to see again that dark wash at play, definitely highlighting a lot of the detail pretty nicely. A little extra sagginess to the skin there in the neck and throat region of the dinosaur. As you move down, you can continue to see that that black turns, rather than a striping, more into like an interesting patterning where it just starts to show up all over the place on the body. You've got some okay looking skin texture here in the stomach as well, a little bit of extra girth. You can see the dinosaur definitely looks like it's pretty well fed, pretty healthy. The arms are in kind of an awkward position, almost also very Schleich-like. Like Schleich loves to give their dinosaurs, their theropods especially, very awkward positioning with the hands, and you can see the one hand looks pretty good. The opposing arm over there looks pretty nice, but then this one is kind of very awkwardly positioned. You can see the muscle definition, the elbow, everything sculpted out. You've also got some decent kind of sculpts for the fingers, and the nails are painted with a black, but it could be better. As you move up again, though, you can see the patterning moving back. You can see some creasing right there in the skin in front of the thigh. The muscle definition in the thigh also looks nice, and I like the way that they painted the reddish tone here, where it kind of like stripes back into the back of the thigh. That is pretty nice. As you lead down, though, you can see the red does disappear. You also have some patterning with that black moving down that also disappears. And then you have the brown as you move down into like the calf muscle shining right there. You've got some scoots moving down the toes of the Giga, and you can also see again the dark wash at play. You can also see the nails are painted with a dark tone. Actually looks more, rather than a black, looks more like a dark brown. But it does have a nice satin shine to it. And you can see that there are dew claws sculpted out and painted, which is nice. And it is nice, again, to see that shine on the nails as well. And another thing that's very interesting about a lot of these Adventure Force figures, and now Simba figures, is how a lot of these larger ones always bear somewhat of a resemblance to other figures that are out. And most often it seems they're, bearing a bit of a resemblance to Schleich. And this time, when it comes to the Giga, obviously most of the Giganotosaurus doesn't look at all like the Schleich version, but there's something about the tail here and the way that it curves and the thickness that just has a very strong resemblance to the Schleich Giganotosaurus. Now, I'm definitely not saying that they bootleg this or anything, although, some of their Adventure Force figures, I don't know about Simba, but definitely some of the Adventure Force figures in the past have certainly been bootlegs. But this one just has kind of a resemblance. I think maybe they used the Giga from Schleich as inspiration possibly for this one. But as you lead out, you can see, again, we return to that striping effect. We continue to have those ridges following along the back. And again, some more decent skin texture as you move down. Very different style down here compared to the scaly look we have up here. You have a nice curve as you lead out to the end of the tail as well. And again, when you look at it from the opposing side, again, the head does look a bit awkward. Definitely not the best Giganotosaurus head sculpt, that's for sure. As you move down, though, you can see the head does have a slight turn in the neck, just ever so slightly toward its left. And we lead down. The arm looks, again, like I said, way better over here compared to the initial side. I love the positioning, a lot nicer over here. You can see the leg is taking a step forward over here, though, compared to the other side, so that's another difference from one side to the other. Pretty nice looking, again, fairly consistent paintwork on both sides. They've also dry brushed out a lot of the detail as you lead down, which was a nice touch, I think. And then you can see as you lead out here, the tail now curves toward us rather than away from us like it did on the other side. And again, the detail, very interesting looking style of skin texture to the underside of this Giga. But overall, again, it's a pretty fun figure, and I'm actually really now excited to finally have the missing link from Adventure Force, even if it is under Simba Toys, but the missing link from this lineup in my collection. As far as a size goes, it's pretty much right there in the size range of the Adventure Force figures that are out. Or were out. I don't know if they're now discontinued. I think I'm going to turn it, actually, because it's just for some reason hard to get to the end of the tail over there. But for a length, you were looking at about 11.5 inches, or right around 29 centimeters. And then for a height, about a little over 5.5 inches, or just under 14.5 centimeters, roughly. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Glovosaurus, Robert Muldoon, and the Collect Day Human Being, who seems to be pretty much a mile away now from the Giga. I don't know why I put him way over there. But you can see again that the size of the Giganotosaurus is kind of similar, but a little bit larger than Mr. Papo T-Rex, showing you that the figure does have a decent size to it. And I think that's one of the more appealing aspects of these figures, and when Adventure Force had them at Walmart, is the fact that they are pretty sizable and pretty high quality for a decent price. But for another size comparison, we've got a Mattel Velociraptor and Dilophosaurus stepping in next to our Giganotosaurus from Simba Toys to again show you that the Giga is bigger. And just in case you're having any trouble remembering which Adventure Force figures I was speaking of, here is the Adventure Force T-Rex. This is the second paint variant that had come out for it, next to the Giganotosaurus. And you can see that the Giga is actually a little bit larger, but you can also very clearly see how similar these figures are in both the style, the paint, the sculpt. Everything is so similar between these two, showing you that there is definitely a similarity between Simba Toys and Adventure Force, and I, again, like I said, have a suspicion that they may be the same company, but I can't say that for sure. They just at the very least, they definitely share the same sculptor and the same style of figure, no doubt about that. And then for one final comparison, we have the Giganotosaurus from Schleich. I was just mentioning and how similar the overall look and feel for the tails are between these two, and you can really see it, I think, right here. They also bend the same way. They have the same thick sort of style, the same ridges moving down and everything. They just look very similar to me. Outside of that, though, you know, the rest of the Giganotosaurus doesn't really share anything as far as similarities go that I can see between the Schleich version of the Giga and the Simba Toys version, but that tail is very, very similar, leading me to believe that maybe they had used the Schleich version as some form of inspiration for this Simba Toys Giga. So this Simba Toys larger version of the Giganotosaurus is pretty fun, actually. Again, you have to have kind of an open mind. You have to be one of those people like me that you just love dinosaurs as a whole, I think, to really appreciate this figure, because if you are looking for accuracy or anything like that when it comes to a Giganotosaurus, you absolutely have to look elsewhere. And in fact, you need to run far away from Simba Toys as well as Adventure Force, because you're not going to find that anywhere near any of those companies and their figures. But what you will find is a very cool, very exaggerated version of a Giganotosaurus, and I've always had a pretty big soft spot for the Adventure Force figures of this style, so when this Giganotosaurus was revealed, I really wanted to get a hold of it because I really like those figures, and you know, to have the line all but one was pretty much killing me, so thankfully Paleopart helped to hook me up with this one. I don't know for sure if you can find these guys on eBay or anything like that. I will try to search one out to see if maybe I can add a link in the description, but I don't know how pricey they will be considering they're coming from Germany. But this figure is pretty fun. Again, the sculpt, obviously very different from an actual Giga, is definitely highly detailed enough that I really quite enjoy it. It also has a decent size, pretty okay looking sculpt, you know, as far as like the pose goes. There's not really much to it, but it's got an okay look, I guess. It does have an articulated jaw, but it doesn't work too well, which is unfortunate. I'm not a big fan of the paintwork of the eyes, but past that point, I actually really quite like the paintwork of the figure. The overall, you know, patterning and everything is simplistic enough, but natural enough, and the tones of color used are really nice. And of course, the inclusion of a dark wash is really fun. I'm always a big fan of that because I think it just amps up the realism of any figure once you add that on there. Overall, it is a pretty cool figure, and if you do recall, I did review another Giganotosaurus from Simba Toys before, but it was like a Jurassic World Dominion version, so it's kind of cool to have this version in the Simba Toys line as well, which is a very different style compared to the much smaller version they had previously released. But if you are interested, like I said, I'll try to find a link, but I can't guarantee it. Otherwise, keep an eye out for this one if it happens to pop up somewhere. Maybe Adventure Force will release it at some point in some store here in the United States. I have no idea, but it is a pretty cool figure, and again, if you are a fan of the Adventure Force style, definitely worth picking up. So make sure you do if you can, and of course, like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.